Did you know? The New Order was the first Wolfenstein game to be released in Germany. German laws forbid the use of Nazi imagery in games, as they're generally considered as toys rather than art. To have the game approved, the game's developers, Machine Games, had to meticulously edit out any reference to Nazis and decide what was and wasn't okay to show. For example, the number 88 is a coded Nazi reference. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, so 88, or HH, is a message meaning Heil Hitler. So if the number 88 were to be included coincidentally, the team had to decide whether or not to remove it. Wolfenstein The New Order also very nearly didn't get made. After being founded in 2009 by industry veterans, Machine Games immediately began pitching projects to publishers. One of these publishers was Bethesda, who had recently gained access to id Software and all of its franchises. Although every pitch by Machine Games was shot down, Bethesda offered them an id property to work on. Machine Games' creative director Jens Mathies had gotten his start in the industry making Quake mods, so the chance to work on another id franchise was a dream come true. The company ultimately chose to work on a new entry of Wolfenstein. Machine Games was invited to meet with id Software in Texas. The team thought they'd have to pitch their own Wolfenstein concept, but it was actually the other way around. id were already confident that Machine Games would do the series justice, and wanted to pitch their id Tech 5 engine to Machine Games. Their collaboration with Bethesda proved to be fruitful, with Machine Games receiving full creative freedom and no pressure to include multiplayer. Story was considered to be an integral part of the New Order. The basic premise of the game, a world where the Nazis won World War II, proved to be a well of creativity. While the cast is full of exaggerated personalities like General Death's Head, the team wanted to portray the Nazis as humans, rather than caricatures. They were careful to make the threat and the ideology of the Nazis feel consistent and threatening. While it was tempting to make them a joke, Mathies believed it would be a missed opportunity to assume the Nazis were evil and not show the player why they were evil. He argued that games can put you on the receiving end of cruelty in a way that other media can't. The game's 1960s setting was a deliberate choice, as a lot of progressive values such as sexual liberation and human rights became a mainstream concern in the 60s. The team felt it would be interesting to pervert that by having the 60s ruled by Nazis who hold opposing values. It was important to id that series protagonist BJ remained a hero, rather than become a morally ambiguous anti-hero. The designers were sure to reveal things to both BJ and the player at the same time, so that the player and the character were both on the same page. Mathies felt this technique was effective, but oddly rare in games. One way they accomplished this was to present BJ with a horrible choice at the start of the game, so the player would come to hate antagonist Death's Head. Death's Head returns from Return to Castle Wolfenstein and the 2009 Wolfenstein. Machine Games decided to bring Death's Head back from Return to Castle Wolfenstein and the 2009 game, as it was an opportunity to flesh out the character and give fans some closure. And while only capable of saying his own name, Max Hass proved to be the most difficult character to cast. He was based on Garp, from the 1978 John Irving novel, The World According to Garp. The tone of the game was also influenced by other media. It took inspiration from two films in particular, RoboCop and Inglourious Basterds. This was because the team wanted to create fiction with rich themes and a coherent plot, while also featuring over-the-top violence. The New Order was built to be longer and more difficult than a typical shooter campaign to compensate for the lack of multiplayer. The game rejected many modern shooter mechanics such as a limited weapon pool and regenerating health. The team instead adopted a more 90s sensibility, giving the player 100 health and armor that must be replenished using pickups. However, they didn't reject modern mechanics entirely, giving BJ a more modern leaning system and allowing his health to regenerate up to 20% to give critically injured players a fighting chance. Machine Games also intended to release 2 DLC packs for the New Order, but instead released a new standalone title in 2015, Wolfenstein The Old Blood. Development of the DLC packs for the New Order were progressing smoothly, but since their stories were set back to back, the team decided to simply combine them. Like the New Order before it, Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus explores a revised history where the Nazis won World War II. As it's set in America, the team explored how the Americana of the 50s and 60s is twisted by the Nazi propaganda machine. Although the game arguably has some parallels with the current political climate, this was mostly a coincidence. Machine Games were not focused on contemporary satire and wanted to create something timeless. The game's scope for commentary was also limited by both the length of development and by the game's pulpy nature. Bethesda's marketing was less shy about referencing current events, with the company releasing the No More Nazis gameplay trailer on September 19th. Some felt that the trailer was directly antagonizing people with right-wing political views. In response, Pete Hines, vice president of PR and marketing at Bethesda, said, "Wolfenstein has been a decidedly anti-Nazi series since the first release more than 20 years ago. We aren't going to shy away from what the game is about. We don't feel it's a reach for us to say Nazis are bad and un-American." Although BJ was originally said to be from Milwaukee, referencing the city's large Polish population in connection with World War II, his identity was changed in the New Order. BJ was instead given a southern accent and said to have grown up near Mesquite, Texas. This is actually a reference to id Software, which was founded in Mesquite in 1991. The redesign of BJ's appearance also bears a striking resemblance to German actor Till Schweiger, best known in the West for his role as Hugo Stiglitz in *Inglourious Bastards*. Since the game's developers already admitted to drawing inspiration from the film, it's likely their resemblance isn't a coincidence. As well as referencing real life, The New Order also has several nods to other video games. While in the car at the opening sequence of Chapter 6, it's possible to spot a reference to another id Software property. The car keys in the ignition have a Quake 3 rocket launcher keychain dangling from them. There's another reference to an id title. In Tekla's room, there's a board of chipwood with the letters IDKFA written on it. This is a cheat code from Doom 1 and 2 that gives the player full health, ammo, and armor as well as all keys and weapons in the game. Machine Games also included a reference to publisher Bethesda. In Chapter 7, it's possible to find a large red circular vault-like door shrouded in steam. The door is labeled 101, a reference to Vault 101 from Bethesda's Fallout 3. Did you also know that there was a VR version of Wolfenstein 3D? Or that the Super Nintendo port of Wolfenstein 3D was programmed by just one man? For more facts, check out our video on Wolfenstein 3D. Oh, and did you also know that Hitler himself wanted to become a vampire but was immediately dissuaded from doing so after watching this video? Check it out. Again.